Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee, and let's go through the GFS tonight because last night I said to stick a fork in it, and tonight I'm going to tell you to stick a fork in it because this thing has been cooked pretty much to shoe leather, and I'll show you why. First off, here is the clipper system for tonight, and it's not the cold front that does anything, but it's this upper air disturbance that I think is going to trigger off a burst of snow. So look for the cheap thrill. It might leave, sometimes in these things you can get a pretty decent narrow line of snow squalls to develop, and you could wind up with a coating to maybe up to an inch or so when it goes by, and then that goes out. Now watch this disturbance that comes out in the southern part of the jet, and you can see one of the problems. You see how this is tilted almost straight north-south? It's not even to the Mississippi River, and it's already in this position. This is telling us that it is going to just need a mechanism to force it to make a turn northeastward to our west. And you can see up here the bottom of what is a vortex that forms over Lake Winnipeg. This is the blocking low that's out east of Maine, but the problem is that low, and I'll show it to you again in just a bit, splits, and this piece rotates around, so this energy winds up going up this way, as opposed to if it were more progressive. In other words, if it was tilted more northwest southeast, it could move along a little further east. You want it to make the turn over here, okay? And that's when you would have a good chance for some snow here. This is not the case in this instance. Look at that tilt. You see how that is northwest to southeast? That's what we call a negatively tilted trough. It's already lifting up well to the west. And there it is right there. So you have some reflection of a surface low in northwest Ohio or perhaps near Detroit, and then the energy extends down to the coast, so there's probably some kind of secondary low that develops there, but there's no way to hold the cold air. This vortex that reformed up near Lake Winnipeg effectively blocks all the cold air from building back into the northeast in time for any kind of storm. Now, as we move down past Sunday, now this is long gone, here's another trough, okay? This one is more positively tilted. If it were to be able to make the turn, then we'd be in business for something late in the weekend, but watch what happens. It doesn't have any vortex to rotate around. It stays separate from this particular system, and it just kind of moves on through, probably not showing too much. I'm a little intrigued by this part because you do have an upper low that's sitting off east of Maine, and there really is no room for that vortex to go but to go east-southeast. So there's a long shot chance that something could come out of this when it goes by, some kind of minor event. And I'll switch over to the surface map now, and you can see what happens. And we'll roll it back. Roll it back to the beginning. There's our clipper. And you can see it's got some snow in here, and then that goes out. We have cold air into Friday, but notice, see that high? It's not able to build down because you have this vortex that's up here pulling this low to the northeast. So you don't have any kind of northerly wind down the Hudson Valley to bring down any cold air. And in fact, the isobars here are south. There's a surface low at St. Louis, and this is just no good. All the cold air is trapped up here in northern Canada, has no way to build down because of all the energy that's heading up into the lakes. And there you have a low that winds up in northwest Ohio, like we showed you with that secondary developing off the Maryland coast. Now, it's probably cold enough in central and northern New England, and there they get some snow, and the secondary tracks over or on top of us or just to our south and leaves Cape Cod. Now, here's that second system that doesn't get phased, and that goes out. That was my dog, by the way. Now here's that upper low starts to drop southeastward, and you have this big cold high that's coming down with a lot of cold air in the lakes. This is for early next week, and it does try and make some kind of a surface low just offshore with some snow over New Jersey, Long Island, eastern Pennsylvania. Not a lot, but just something. And then that intensifies as it moves out to the east. And as we move it along, that high just builds on in. Here comes another system in the middle part of next week, getting ready to come out of Oklahoma. and now you have some semblance of a better surface, but who knows? This is 10 days down the road, so we know that this is not going to look like this when we look at the next run later today. Let me show you on the wide view what the problem is with regards to the upper air with this first system, and you can pretty much see how everything, it's kind of like all these are gears, except that the gears are constantly changing in size and scope. There's your blocking high up here. Here's your vortex. This is the system that's coming through tomorrow. And you see how the vortex splits? You get one low that would really be a help to making it cold and snow sitting out at that, what we call the 50-50 low, 50 north, 50 west as part of the block. But you've got this vortex that splits off and intensifies back near Hudson's Bay and actually migrates back westward toward Lake Winnipeg, even further west. So that becomes its own entity. The 50-50 low just isn't strong enough to hold the block. And there you have that second vortex. You see how it comes down? That, I guess, is something we might have to see what the models do with that. When I'd be particularly curious as to what the European sees. So from the standpoint of our weather from the second system for Friday night, Saturday, it's going to be rain, some nor'easter conditions, snow in central and northern New England, upstate New York, probably north of I-90. You know, maybe if there's some cold air, it might bring some snows down to the Pennsylvania-New York State border, but that's a short-range forecast problem and not a long-range problem. So the best thing I can say is that we just have to keep watching and moving on. I try not to take these things too personal. I know a lot of people do, because a lot of people love snow and they like the cold weather. A lot of you don't, so you are probably a lot more happy with this. This is a very complex pattern that we're in. Sometimes it can cause a surprise. Not going to get a surprise Saturday, but maybe we could wind up with a surprise early next week if this vortex drops down, that we could get maybe something a little bit more than just a cheap thrill. But again, that's for something to examine down the road. So enjoy your day, and we will update you, of course, as we always do. And let's hope that we get a cheap thrill this late this afternoon and evening. My dog wants a walk, so I got to go take care of him. Have a good Tuesday.